Every time Sheldon Cooper went too far, the show had an answer ready. He's neurodivergent. He doesn't mean it. That's just Sheldon. He never faced a single real consequence. Not once. And the show dressed that up as character development. When Sheldon crossed a line, someone absorbed the damage and the show moved on. Not because people forgave him, because the system around him was built to ensure nobody ever had to confront what had just happened. The laugh track rolls. The scene ends, and Sheldon walks away clean. Once you really see how Sheldon went too far and to whom, the show starts to look completely different. And I don't mean the obvious moments. The roommate agreement, the endless condescension dressed up as honesty. We catalog those like comedy milestones, like proof of how brilliantly the character was written. But when you stop watching each scene in isolation and start tracking what happens immediately after Sheldon crosses a line, something shifts. The laugh stops sounding like a laugh. It starts sounding like a release valve, like the audience exhaling the discomfort because nobody on screen is dealing with it. Sheldon doesn't just go too far. He goes too far, someone absorbs the damage, and life continues. Every single time. And the show built 12 seasons on the reliability of that cycle. Once you see it, it becomes almost impossible to watch the same way again. Let me start with the one that keeps bothering me the most, because it's small enough that most people wave it past. Picture any random Tuesday evening in the apartment. Leonard comes home, visibly drained. Sheldon doesn't register it. He launches straight into whatever is consuming him that day, doesn't ask a single question, and when Leonard eventually says he'd just like to sit in silence for once, Sheldon explains, at length, why that need is neurologically inefficient. The audience laughs. Leonard drops it. Next scene. But here's what actually happened in that exchange. A man who lived alone with Sheldon for years before anyone else arrived just told him, clearly, that he needed something. And Sheldon didn't just ignore it. He explained why the need was wrong. And Leonard accepted that. That quiet resignation is not a character quirk playing out in one scene. That's what years of conditioning looks like on a person. Leonard is the obvious one, but he's actually not the most important case, because Leonard chose to stay. He signed the roommate agreement. He made peace with the arrangement in a way that gave him some agency, even if that agency was mostly about learning which battles weren't worth fighting. The people Sheldon went too far with who had no choice at all. Those are the ones worth looking at. Missy Cooper is the one that breaks me when I think about it seriously. Here's a girl who grew up in a house where the entire family structure, every resource, every conversation, every ounce of parental attention was organized around one objective, keeping Sheldon functional. And Sheldon, to his credit on some level, didn't design that system. He was just the beneficiary of it. But the moments where he actively made things worse for Missy, and there are a lot of them, those aren't defensible on neurodivergence grounds alone. The Professor Proton photo scene. She's sobbing. He walks in, uninvited, and tells her that her attitude is probably why boys don't like her. Not as a joke, as a diagnosis. And Missy gets punished for reacting to that. Mary sees a torn photo and a crying Sheldon, and that's the whole story. Case closed. Missy goes to her room. Sheldon gets consoled. And the audience laughs because the physical comedy of the ripped photo lands before anyone processes what just happened. That scene is not an outlier. It's the template. Because this is what Sheldon going too far actually looks like when you pull back from the laugh track. It's not the big dramatic moments. It's the accumulation of small ones, each individually forgivable, collectively catastrophic. Every time he told someone their feelings were irrational. Every time he walked into a room mid-crisis and made it about his own comfort. Every time he used precision language to say something genuinely cruel and then looked confused when people called it cruel. The show always gave him the same out. He didn't mean it that way. He doesn't understand. That's just Sheldon, and maybe that's true. But here's the question nobody asked for 12 seasons. Does not meaning harm remove the harm? Because Missy still cried, Leonard still swallowed it, and Howard and Raj sat through years of it in ways the show consistently underplayed. Howard spent most of the early seasons absorbing Sheldon's open contempt for engineering as a discipline, delivered not occasionally, but as a foundational position. Every time Howard solved something, Sheldon found a way to frame it as what a real scientist would have done differently. It wasn't banter. It was a sustained, years-long project of diminishment dressed up as intellectual honesty. And Howard, who already carried significant insecurity about his lack of a doctorate, just absorbed it, made a joke back, moved on. Raj got the quieter version, the condescension wrapped in genuine curiosity about his culture, which somehow made it harder to push back against. You can't call it hostile if the person seems fascinated. And Raj never did push back, not in any way that actually landed. The apology problem is where it gets really dark. Sheldon does apologize sometimes. The show is careful about that. It uses those moments as evidence of his growth, as proof that he's not completely unreachable. But look at what the apologies actually do. They resolve the episode. They close the loop so the audience feels okay. And then the next week, the same pattern runs again, because the apology was never about the other person. It was about Sheldon's discomfort with conflict. He apologizes to restore equilibrium, not to repair damage. And the people around him, who have been trained for years to accept whatever version of remorse he can manage, take it. Every time. Because the alternative is losing him entirely, and they've built their lives around him so completely that losing him would mean losing themselves. Amy is the most obvious example of this in The Big Bang Theory, and I genuinely think the show doesn't realize how uncomfortable it is. She spends years being explicitly told by Sheldon that she is his girlfriend in the scientific rather than romantic sense, that her emotional needs are a scheduling inconvenience, that physical affection is something she has to negotiate for like a contract amendment. And she stays. And the audience roots for her to stay. Because we've been positioned to believe that getting through to Sheldon is the victory. That his eventual growth justifies the years of damage. But Amy is a brilliant woman who accepted a relationship where her basic human needs were treated as requests subject to approval. And the show called that a love story. Here's what I think is actually going on, and this is the part that genuinely reframed everything for me. The people around Sheldon didn't just tolerate his behavior. They participated in a system that protected him from ever having to fully reckon with the impact of it. Mary was the architect of that system. She built it in Medford with the best intentions a parent can have, and she exported it to Pasadena without realizing she'd done it. She raised a boy who understood that his needs would be accommodated before the question of their effect on others was ever seriously asked. And then she sent him into the world surrounded by people who, one by one, learned the same lesson. Don't push too hard. Don't make it a confrontation. Find the workaround. Keep the peace. And Sheldon, who is genuinely not fully equipped to read what that accommodation costs people, just kept going, not out of malice, out of an almost total absence of feedback that actually landed. The Nobel Prize speech is where I can't shake it. He gets up there at the most significant moment of his professional life and acknowledges, in front of the world, that he was not always easy to be around. And the audience cries, because that's growth, right? That's the payoff for everything, except Missy exists, Georgie exists, and the acknowledgement they get is delivered in the same breath as a general admission that he was hard to be around. Not a recognition of what they specifically absorbed. Not an acknowledgement that his brother held the family together while he was building equations in California. Just a heartfelt, well-delivered statement that he knows he wasn't always easy. And everyone accepts it. Of course they do. They've been accepting whatever he could give for decades. That's the system working exactly as designed. The thing is, Sheldon Cooper is not a villain. I want to be clear about that because this whole conversation collapses if it becomes an argument about whether he's a bad person. He's not. He's a person who was failed by the people who loved him most, in the specific way that overprotection fails people. They kept the consequences from reaching him. And without consequences, there's no real feedback loop. And without a real feedback loop, a person never fully updates. He made it to the Nobel Prize. He became a husband, eventually a father. He grew genuinely in ways that matter. But the version of growth he managed was the version available to someone who was never seriously required to sit with the damage they caused. That's not quirky. That's not charming. That's what it looks like when a system built around one person's comfort runs long enough to become invisible. And the scariest part is how long we watched it and called it our favorite sitcom.